Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us from wherever you may be joining us from. Um, with us today, we have Emmanuel Bogoli. Emmanuel Bogoli is a business coach. He's a financial advisor and a strategist as well. He has been in the field for over 15 years now, and we are happy to have him facilitate this session this time. So without further ado, welcome, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Brenda. Hello, everyone. From where you're watching this from, welcome to this session. And today we'll be talking about coaching as a superpower for managers. And we are going to be looking at how do you, as a leader or a manager, um, unlock the potential of your team using coaching. Okay, so feel very welcome, and I'll just dive straight into the presentation. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, a Gallup research in 2020 showed that employee engagement, 70% rather of employee engagement, is directly influenced by managers. Yet most managers, as we know it, are promoted mostly for technical skills and not necessarily people development. Okay, so why we are saying this is because coaching is actually what would say helps managers shift from directing to unlocking potential. And maybe you're here and you're even asking, what is coaching as far as management is concerned? Okay, so coaching is just basically it's a way, it's a style. I would say it's like a management style in which you get to develop employees through guiding them one on one so that they may be able to improve their performance or basically live up to their potential. And so, what we are saying today is that traditional management as we know it alone is not enough to unlock the potential of your team. So, let's look at just beyond managing as a leader, how do you do this through coaching? Okay. And we're not saying that management is not important. It is still important. Okay. Because remember, management is what gives structure, direction, and accountability. But what we're saying today is that management alone does not unlock people's potential. Okay. So coaching now comes in to be able to help you so that instead of just directing or solving problems, you're able to invite your team members into ownership. Okay. And so remember, we've said coaching is just a way of guiding. And how it is done? It is done through asking powerful questions, okay? Empowering your people to be able to find solutions and therein guiding their growth. A research from the International Coaching Federation, ICF, in 2023 actually shows that organizations with strong coaching cultures amazingly see engagement levels up to 72% higher than those that don't. Okay, and so even just by this statistic, you can be able to start to see how the power of shifting from managing to leading through coaching, the results that it can be able to give you in your organization. So, what are we saying today, ladies and gentlemen? What we're saying is when managers embrace coaching, they stop being taskmasters as it is, and you start becoming a growth multiplier. Okay? So, what you're saying is that coaching is a superpower for managers. Okay, as you can see on my presentation, leaders who coach are able to build teams that consistently outperform their peers. And research has shown that this happens by 20 to 30% more. So, coaching is able to build on management. It allows you as a leader to amplify your impact. And that's why we are saying today that it is a superpower. Okay, it helps you build stronger, more resilient teams. And as a leader, you are able to coach when you include coaching, and you do it consistently, what you're saying is that you're able to outperform your peers. Okay. And what you're saying that coaching is about you helping others to solve. Remember, you're not solving for them. You are guiding them through that process and empowering them in essence, you're actually empowering them to be able to improve themselves as individual contributors to your team. So let's look at some core coaching case studies. One was done in at Google. They were calling it Project Oxygen. And so Google once thought managers didn't matter. Okay. But through this project and through this research, it actually revealed the opposite. Okay. That the best managers are actually great coaches. And so today, as it is, Google as an organization has made coaching a cornerstone of leadership development. Okay. So what Google now, for example, has done is they've become very intentional in training their managers on how to coach. And what that has done for them is that it has led to higher employee engagement and retention. And those of us, of course, who are following this would know that just the aspect of retention alone has a direct impact, for example, on your financial performance. We all know that your ability to retain employees, allows you to save costs because a high employee turnover is very costly for any organization. Okay, let's look at Microsoft, whose CEO Satya Nadella, um, who became the CEO in 2014, also brought in a culture shift when he took over Microsoft. And what Satya did is that he emphasized a coaching mindset, okay? Prioritizing curiosity over arrogance, okay? And what happened is that, this cultural reset, as it is, was able to transform Microsoft's trajectory. Okay, so the culture that Satya basically ingrained at Microsoft is, where you shift managers from having this attitude of, they know it, to how do you as a leader learn, and especially with your team. And so what is the result of that culture? You find there's improved collaboration between team members. And of course, that leads to innovation. And that has, again, a direct impact on revenue. And so Microsoft was able to grow just by simply implementing this culture shift in the organization. Let's look at IBM, which also implemented structured coaching training for managers. And they also, in the early 2000s, they were able to realize that there's now higher retention in their teams. And interestingly, there was also improved sales and stronger leadership across the organization. Okay, so clearly you can be able to see that just by implementing a coaching culture in leaders, it has, again, a direct correlation to improving your performance as an organization. So IBM was able to scale across departments globally. This culture was able to be implemented across all facets of the organization, and this greatly improved their performance. Let's go a little bit deeper into core coaching competencies. You're here and you're asking yourself, so how do I, as a manager, then begin to inculcate this culture of coaching? So we'll be talking about some core competencies. And the first one we are saying is, as a manager, you need to inculcate what we say is called active listening. Okay, so active listening, it helps you as a leader to build trust. Okay, a research that was done by the Center for Creative Leadership actually showed that employees who feel listened to are far more likely to trust their managers and stay engaged. So just imagine the benefit of you as a leader having your team trust you. You as a manager or as a leader having your team so engaged at work. Okay, so active listening here, ladies and gentlemen, what does it mean? It means going beyond just hearing. It's about reflecting back. Notice the tone and emotion of your team members and show genuine presence. That's what we say is active listening. The second competence we're going to look at is powerful questioning. Okay? And again, powerful questioning is an element that sparks ownership. Neuroscience tells us that questions stimulate the prefrontal cortex, and this sparks reflection, creativity, and ownership. And so when a manager asks questions instead of giving solutions, the employee or your team members are able to take responsibility for finding the answers. And what does this do? It helps you as an organization be able to build your problem-solving capacity. It also helps to build the confidence of your team members. Okay? The third competence we'll be looking at is feedback as dialogue. The Harvard Business Review found that feedback is most effective when it's a conversation and not a one-way critique. And so, ladies and gentlemen, coaching reframes feedback into an exchange. Okay? So it would look like you as a leader being able to say to your team members, here is what I see. What do you think? And what this does is that it shifts the conversation there from judgment to joint learning. Okay? And then the next competence we talk about to be very critical to coaching is psychological safety. Okay? Amy Edmondson's research at Harvard showed that the highest performing teams are those where people feel safe to speak up without a fear of punishment or embarrassment. And so coaching fosters this safety, ladies and gentlemen. How does it do it? By encouraging openness, curiosity in your team, and a culture where mistakes are seen as a learning opportunity, okay, and not necessarily a reason, to bring in discipline or correction. The next competence we talk about is a growth mindset, okay, and psychologist Carol Dweck, her work demonstrates that people who believe abilities can be developed are far more resilient and have actually been proven to perform better. And so, ladies and gentlemen, coaching actually cultivates this mindset. And it does this by focusing on progress, effort, and learning rather than fixed talent, which is what many organizations tend to do. And so, ladies and gentlemen, together, these five competencies form the backbone of coaching as a superpower. It helps you as a leader be able to turn everyday conversations into moments of growth and transformation. So, let's look at the practical shifts that you can be able to make and that will help you be able to make a difference as a manager. So, for example, if you have a conversation with your team member, you can replace the question, why did you? So, if it is a situation that has occurred and perhaps it has resulted in a negative outcome, rather than asking the team member, why did you do this and this? You can replace that with asking them, what could work better? This is just a simple way of reframing this question in a way that is able now to bring a better outcome. Remember, we said that the best engagement is where you learn jointly together with your team. Okay. And then as a manager, you can also apply the 70-30 rule. And here we say, as a leader, when you're having a conversation with your team, spend 70% of the time listening and 30% speaking. And we've already said before that employees who feel listened to, okay, they are better engaged. Okay. And then always, when you're having one-on-ones with your team, always end the conversation by asking, what is your next step? Again, this brings the element of ownership, as we have said before. Okay. Now, let's look at some practical tools for managers. Okay. And we'll use the GROW model. The GROW model is a coaching tool. It's a simple, powerful structure for any coaching conversation that you can have as a leader. And it helps you as a manager stay focused and empower your employees to problem solve. So let's break down the GROW coaching model. So G stands for goal. In other words, you're asking yourself or you're asking your team member, what do you want to achieve? This is a very powerful question. What do you want to achieve? Okay. And then you move to reality. And in reality, you're asking yourselves in the conversation, in that coaching conversation, what is happening now? Okay. So you already have the goal at the back of your mind. The team member has been able to express what the goal is. But now you take them back to what is the reality, what is happening now. Okay. And after you have been able to get that reality, you now look at options. And so you're asking the team member, what could you try? Okay, remember we've looked at reality. So what could you try? What are the options available to you that would help you achieve your goal? Okay, and then last but not least, you look at will. And so under will, you're asking your team member, what is your next step? Again, pushing them back to ownership and accountability. You're not giving them solutions. You are helping them to problem solve. Okay, so these are very powerful, reflective questions. And you could use this as a manager, as a coaching tool. The GROW model is a very impactful coaching tool as it is. So again, the goal, the reality, and then exploring the options, and then taking the team member back to making to being decisive about what it is that they're going to do next that will help them achieve their goal. Okay? And so if you're watching this recording, at this point, I just want to encourage you to take a pause here. And what I want you to do is jot down a real scenario. I just want you to think back in the conversations that you've had with a team member. Probably it was a challenge. Okay. And now what I want you to do is reflect on if you had been able to implement coaching, how would it have shifted the outcome of that conversation? Okay. So let's just take a minute and jot this down. And in doing that, I want you to write down one question as we have gone through today, just one that you could have asked that team member instead of giving them advice as their manager, as their leader. And feel free to share with us as well. Okay. So based on the question you've written down, let's let's help you. Let's help you with some starter coaching questions that you can be able to use as a manager, as a leader. You can ask a team member, what is your biggest challenge right now? Okay. Again, this is a very powerful, reflective question. What is your biggest challenge right now? So let's say you're a sales manager and you have a team. And so you're asking this team member, okay? You're not dwelling on the fact that they have not met their targets, okay? You're asking them, what is your biggest challenge? So this causes the team member to reflect, okay, in their process. Yes, the goal is to achieve the sales target, but right now they are not achieving their targets. And so you're asking them to reflect on what is their biggest challenge. And once they have been able to share this, you can then proceed to ask them, what options do you see? So we have said coaching is not about you giving the solution. It is allowing your employee, you're allowing that team member to take ownership and accountability and problem solve. And so allow them to tell you the options they see, for example, that will allow them to turn around their performance. Okay. And once they have given you those options, then you as a leader need to ask them, what support would help you move forward? Okay. And then last but not least, again, you have to push them to now come up with very precise action steps. And so you can do this by asking the team member, if you could try one small step today, tomorrow, what would it be? And so this makes the team member, again, take ownership and accountability because they are the ones now who have come up with the options. They have been able to communicate the support they need from you as the manager and as their leader. And so now what you are agreeing on is commitment. You are getting commitment from this team member on what is the action step that they are going to take following this conversation, okay, based on the options that they have been able to give. So these are very practical questions, okay? And as you can see, these questions turn conversations into growth opportunities. Again, let's just take a moment to reflect. And again, I want you to go back and think of a recent team challenge that you faced. And I want you to ask yourself, if you had used a coaching approach, what would have been different? I want you to think of that situation and just imagine having used the grow coaching model that we've looked at today and think about the change in outcome that could have occurred. And in doing this, I want you to ask yourself, what's the one question that you could have asked again instead of giving advice? Okay? So as a manager or a leader, I hope you're now starting to see how a coaching conversation, first and foremost, is an engaging conversation. As you have seen, it is a two-sided conversation. Okay? And it helps you to be able to bring the best out of your team members. As you have seen, it is non-judgmental. Okay? And so it's not an opportunity for you to be aggressive with this person. It's an opportunity for both of you to have a conversation that allows them more than anything to be able to reflect. Okay, and this reflection more often than not allows them to solve the problem therein that they are facing, whether it is a performance oriented challenge, whatever it could be, they are able to reflect and problem solve. And the only thing you need to do then as a manager or as a leader is to support the action steps that they have committed to making. Okay? So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone through coaching as a superpower. And you're there and you're asking yourself, this looks very interesting. I've never used this. And so before I hand it over, I just want to emphasize that at Vital Solutions, what we do is we help organizations such as yours be able to build coaching skills for managers. And how do we do this? We offer individual coaching and training. We also deliver leadership and departmental programs. We are known more for sales excellence training, and we ourselves working with the clients, we also have we have tangible proof that coaching does work as a superpower for managers, even in sales performance management. The other thing we do at Vital Solutions Africa is we facilitate team buildings and culture change. Today we've talked about Google, we've talked about Microsoft, we've talked about IBM, and you're seated here and you're a leader and you're asking yourself, how can I bring this coaching culture into my organization? We want to work with you, hold your hand, and be able to help you bring about this cultural change in your organization. And last but not least, we also provide custom leadership development solutions across all levels of management and leaders and even teams. Okay? So thank you so much for listening in today. Please, our contacts are displayed there. Do book a free consultation call with us by calling us on the numbers displayed, or drop us an email and tell us that you joined today's webinar and you are excited about what you learned and you're looking to take this and implement it in your organization. And we'll be very happy to reach out to you and walk this journey with you. We ourselves now being as organizational coaches. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining today's webinar. Allow me to hand it back to Brenda.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you. That was an insightful, power-packed session. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. I have gained a lot, actually. Two of my takeaways, I even had to note them down. Coaching is allowing the coachee to take accountability and ownership and problem solve. This is very, very important. The second one for me was employees who are listened to are more engaged. That could not be any more true. So thank you so much, Emmanuel. We appreciate you taking your time to lead this session. We also appreciate the wisdom that you have impacted on us. I do hope that the listeners and the watchers will be able to implement these nuggets and to just transform how they manage their teams and how they lead and how they have been working. It is always good to learn. It is good to be teachable. And so this was really insightful. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. We have an article published on our website as well on the same thing, coaching as a superpower for managers. So it coincides with what you've just shared. And I think that this is a good gift. This is a good gift. So thank you so much, Emmanuel. That is it from us. Please join us next month for another session. Thank you so much. Goodbye.